I just spit out of my side of my mouth somehow. Hello everyone, my name is Lisa and I'm the vegan because I'm vegan, and it's been a very long time since I recorded a video in front of a camera where I'm not just sitting on the floor. But you know what? We're in my reading nook. We're gonna talk about books today. Yeah, obviously this is a vegan food channel, but I often talk about my life and I've been reading a lot lately, and more of you have been asking me about books and stuff like that, and I've just really enjoyed talking about books, so I've just taken it and run with it. I'm part of 3 book clubs now. If you would like to join my book club, it's on Discord. We have both video and in-person discussions. If you want to join, leave a link down below. The first book that we're reading is My Sister the Serial Killer, and we're meeting on January 16th, I believe. It's like a Sunday. So if you want to join, I'll leave a link down below. Feel free to join. Very introvert friendly, because I know a lot of you are introverted and feel uncomfortable talking on video. We'll have both a video discussion or like a voice discussion if you want to join. If not, that's cool. You can just type along in the forum. It'll be a great time. Today's video, I'm gonna be talking about reading, how I got back into reading, what I'm using to read, and I'm just talking about my love for reading basically. And then I will put out another video about my top 10 books of 2020. This is just a chill chat about books and reading and how I got back into reading. So if you would like to grab some tea, a hot bevy, some coffee, and come join me, please do. 2020 has been a bit of a year with a lot of like friendships and relationships changing. That sort of not triggered me, but like launched me into reading again. I spent a lot of time by myself. I spent a lot of time searching for narratives or stories or people's experiences that might echo my own, or that sort of like shed a light on things or perspectives that I didn't know before. So this year I spent a lot of time trying to diversify my reading. I'm sure a lot of people did that this year, especially with what happened in June with the BLM movement resurgence and people just realizing that you need to like amplify melanated voices, and like so many people just like woke up to like the amount of racism that is just so present in our world. And I feel like I've been saying this for years and years and years. So many other people, intersectional activists, have been saying this for years and years, and it's like finally vindicating to like see people being like, oh, I see, but like still not really doing a lot about it. It's hard to like learn about all of that stuff and then like try and figure out what to do with that knowledge. And this year I have made it a point to celebrate and support melanated voices by reading their work, consuming their art, supporting their art, and just diversifying my Instagram feed, my YouTube, all that kind of stuff. My initial goal was 20 books for 2020, and I blew past that in the summer. From age like 3 to like 14, I was basically an only child, and I wasn't really allowed to like do much. A lot of the time, my babysitter was the library after school because my mom worked in another city growing up, and my dad worked shift work. So a lot of times I would be by myself. My mom didn't want me to be home by myself, so I was often just instructed to go to the library after school for several hours. So I feel like from age like 10 to 13, I spent every single day at the library after school, and I just spent my time reading, doing homework, and more reading, and just being surrounded by books. So reading has like a really near and dear place in my heart, and reading is like what my mom and I used to do a lot. Like I would read crappy YA novels, and then my mom would read them, and then we'd like talk about them. I would steal my mom's books to read, and she had like a couple Harlequin romances that I would read. I don't know, my mom and I both love reading, and she likes reading now, and she reads on her iPad, but I kind of want to get her a Kobo. Until like age 14, I was reading like stacks and stacks and stacks of books. I read so many books, like Redwall, the Philip Pullman books, Narnia books. And I think from age like 15 until I guess this year, I wasn't reading because I was distracted by like dating, school, and friends, and work, and life. I just never really got around to reading again until this year, until I was like forced to spend a lot of time by myself and in my own head. Like a lot of people have asked me like how to get back into reading, and I think the main thing is you just have to like reestablish that habit of like, instead of watching a show, instead of scrolling on Instagram, instead of watching YouTube, I mean, not that I didn't want you to stop watching YouTube, please continue watching YouTube. Instead of like watching YouTube before I go to bed, I would just read a book. I didn't force myself to read like a bunch every night until my eyes got sleepy. I would read, and I would like be able to knock out 20 minutes to 30 minutes every single night of reading, and I was able to like, you know, read a lot of books, and then the next morning I'd be like, oh man, I want to know what happens next. So while I'm having my morning coffee, I would be reading. Normally during that time I'd be like watching a YouTube video or just scrolling Instagram or what have you, and it's been really nice to be like not as connected socially on that sort of thing, and just be reading. So for a while I was just listening to audiobooks while I was cooking, and like I still really enjoy audiobooks, but I think I prefer the act of reading because a lot of times I have a lot of issues like processing audio information and I'll just blank out for a certain period of time. So I will like lose track of audiobooks unless I'm like really into them. I tend to listen to nonfiction and or self-help books a lot with audiobooks. I think the last one that I read was Come As You Are, which is about sexual health, which was really, really interesting. And one of my childhood friends / family friends is a sex researcher, and she's quoted in the book, which is so, so cool. I was listening to a lot of audiobooks, especially memoirs written by the authors. So I read Dear Girls by Wong through audiobook, and I listened to Becoming by Michelle Obama. And both of those were like mind-blowing. They were so, so, so good. I also listened to Mindy Kaling's book, I think last year. It's so cool to like hear them from comedians or actors because like they obviously can read their own work and their voices are so clear in both the writing and obviously with them speaking. So it's a good time. Highly recommend them. I also listened to a couple fiction books through audiobooks as well. I listened to The Hate You Give and Where the Crawdads Sing. And I think both of those books were so rich in the characters and the dialogue and the storytelling that it was just like really, really nice. I find that books that have a lot of dialogue with audiobooks tend to be a more fun experience. Would highly recommend, especially because like I don't think I would have like thought about the accents in Where the Crawdads Sing had it not been for the audiobook, because like my brain is really bad at noticing accents. But anyway, yeah, so I listened to a lot of audiobooks, and then once I was like back into stories or like wanting to listen to this story and listen to this story, I was like, I need to read books because I can read faster than I can listen to. So I started using Eddie's abandoned Kindle. So he bought this, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago. We were still living in the basement apartment. So he bought this thinking that he would be reading more books. And then he wanted to read library books. But in Canada, our library system isn't really available on Kindle. So I had to buy a bunch of books in order to read them. And I did buy a bunch, and like they are affordable on Kindle, but a lot of people were trying to encourage me to stop supporting Amazon, and Kindle is owned by Amazon. So I was like, you know what? Fine, I will do something else. So I really wanted to be able to borrow books again. So I bought myself a Kobo. I'm using like a third-party case, but this is my Kobo. I got the Kobo Libra H2O so that I could read in the bath, and it was a very good time. I love this Kobo, okay? Anyone that I can talk to about how much I love the Kobo and how much I love the e-reader, I should get an affiliate code or something, because like I've sold like at least 2 other people on Kobos. One of them being Eddie. He got a Kobo because the reason why he wanted the Kindle in the first place was to be able to read library books, and I think he just didn't do enough research to realize that Canadian libraries are better served by Kobo because it was originally started in Canada. I love the Kobo. Eddie has the Clara. The case from Kobo is so much nicer than the third party. I should have just bought the case from Kobo. I don't like that it says Rakuten Kobo on it though. Like, I'm not really into that, but it feels a lot nicer and a lot more secure and more whatever. Anyway, he has the Clara, which is smaller, doesn't have a button, and isn't waterproof, but it has all the same functionality as my Libra does, and it is slightly smaller. Although I would say like the screen is probably not too different in terms of comparison. Okay, well, when you look at that, like they look, okay, the screen is significantly smaller. Eddie also reads on like a much smaller font than I do, and I love that I can adjust the font on this because my old eyes just love it so much. I can adjust like the margins. The worst thing about finding certain print books is like if you hate the font, it's just like you can't change it. But with this, you can change the font. You can adjust to a different font. You can change the margins, the line spacing, the font size. It's amazing. I love it. And I like the buttons. I like that you can adjust the orientation that you want to read at. And this thing has the case can fold up different ways to like be propped up certain ways. It's just great, okay? A big fan. I like reading this in the bath. I have never dropped it in water, but my other friend who bought a Kobo, because I basically encouraged her to buy a Kobo, she dropped hers in the bath and it was fine. So, it's called the H2O for a reason. Ever since I bought the Kobo, I think I've only bought 1 book, and I've borrowed so many books. I would say like 40 books out of the 60 books that I read this year. Actually, no, probably more than that. Yeah, I would say at least 40 of the books, I'll calculate later. At least 40 of the books that I've read this year are from the library, either from ebooks, audiobooks, or what have you. I've tried reading ebooks on my phone and on an iPad before, but the light is just so like, it just hurts my eyes. But with this, the light points down. It's not pointing at your eyes, so it's not like glowing the same way. It's really, really nice. If you find that you can't look at screens, but you want to read at night, especially, and you don't want like a light on or whatever, this is a great time. With ebooks, you're still supporting your library and you're supporting those authors. So win-win in my situation. You get free books, your libraries get like more funding because more people are borrowing books, it's a great time. There's no downside. That's my spiel on Kobos. The one thing that is really annoying about the Kobo though is that the overdrive integration is really annoying to set up, especially if you have multiple libraries, because I'm very extra and I have a library card from my old city, Mississauga, and also I have one for the city that I live in now, which is Hamilton. Loans from Mississauga, 3 weeks. Loans for Hamilton, 1 week. I am a fast reader, but I like having multiple books, you know, at the ready. I am a lot more stressed about finishing the book with my Hamilton library card. Anyway, it's kind of annoying to set up with overdrive, but once you get it going, it's perfect. And you use Libby to find your books, put on holds, borrow the books, and then it syncs automatically to the Kobo. It's amazing. So for like the stats for this year, I mostly got my stats from the Story Graph, which is an alternative to Goodreads. I do have a Goodreads. I don't really use it anymore. So I think the last time I used it was like at the end of August, and I just switched everything over to the Story Graph because it's not owned by Amazon, Black woman owned. There's a lot more data and it doesn't look like it's designed in 2004. So highly recommend switching to Story Graph. Anyone who has heard me talk about books has heard me talk about why Story Graph is awesome. My username is the Viet Vegan. Pretty much anywhere my username is the Viet Vegan. So I'm very original, clearly. From the stats of my books, I've read 60 books this year because again, I wanted to read 20 by 2020. Then my stretch goal was 30 because I'm 30 this year. And then my stretch goal after that was 50 books. And then I blew past that and now we're at 60 books. They're mostly medium length books between 300 and 500 pages. 75% of them are fiction. I've mostly been reading reflective, emotional, and mystery books, especially historical fiction. My like top 2 series of this year, actually no. Is it my top 2 series? I don't know. I really like the Sarah J. Maas series too. I finished A Throne of Glass this year and I started reading A Court of Thorns and Roses. I have the second book. I just like my cold just came up, so I could start it today. I'm really excited. Most of the series that I've been reading have been historical fiction. My top categories are fantasy, YA, contemporary, mystery, historical fiction, and sci-fi, which is a surprise to nobody because I'm a huge nerd. Yeah, that's basically my little chill chat about books and reading and getting back into reading. It's been a great time just to like have this around. Having the Kobo just like in my backpack anytime I go anywhere. When we have car rides, granted like we're not going anywhere now, but like in the future when I'm like on the train to Toronto, that's like an hour and a half of time that I can read. It's just nice to have something that doesn't pop up with notifications like on my phone. So I just like get a distraction-free, one purpose only type experience with my Kobo. And it like, I have so many books on this. It's amazing. It's a good time. I love my e-reader. And I hope that if any of you hate reading on a screen, I hope you give an e-reader a try because it's been like life-changing, honestly. Like it's just made books so much more accessible, and especially because with social distancing and with libraries not being as like open for like you to browse, having an ebook delivered immediately is just so great. Anyway, that's my spiel about books this year. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. My next video will be about my top 10 books of the year. Don't worry, I'm not going to turn into a booktube channel, but I will talk about books because I've really enjoyed them. Maybe I'll even talk about shows. I've been watching a lot of TV lately too. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. What books have you been reading this year? Have you also rediscovered your love for reading in 2020? I would love to hear your thoughts about ebooks or e-readers or any of that kind of stuff. I'll meet you in the comments talking about books because I've been having a great time talking about books. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a delicious day. Bye.